dkdynamite, and Zombies fans are eating real good lately because not only are we getting new information about DLC 3 almost every day, but a ton of new secrets were just shared by Jason Blundell himself. Definitely stay tuned. But just to remind you guys, it looks like the marketing, at least this week, is pretty focused on zombies. Maybe something will be shared about multiplayer and Warzone, but I wouldn't expect that until next week with the blog post and roadmap. However, we are going live every single day, multi-streaming to be exact, in the case anything does of course get announced. Any support on the broadcast has been greatly appreciated. But just around half an hour ago on Treyarch's Instagram, they posted big shout out to the Rams for stopping by the studio for a sneak preview. The question is, what preview was shown and what game is it for? There's already been comments floating around about Black Ops 7 COD 2025. I think it's way too early for that. Typically, you end up seeing posts related to the next COD if some celebrities played it around maybe May or June and throughout the summer before the beta. Don't think they would have been playing that by now, but it is very likely related to Season 3, maybe specifically DLC 3, but I did see some suggestions that it could have even been Verdansk. Even though Raven primarily handles Warzone, they probably didn't fly the NFL out to Wisconsin where their main studio is. I do think that if they were to play anything to do with Season 3, it's possible they were able to jump into that over at Treyarch Studio. But just around 2 days ago, a rapper was seen, someone I don't really recognize, but a rapper who's allegedly pretty popular was also seen at the studio right in front of that big Abomination statue that was from COD Next. So it looks like a bunch of celebrities, athletes, musicians are visiting the studio right now, so I'm gonna guess it's probably Verdansk if I really had to throw my best prediction out there, but hey, it could of course be the next round-based map, you never know. For the map is now the Shattered Veil. So I've seen mixed reception to the logo, of course, loving the blue theme behind it, but think about the name for a second, Shattered Veil. What does that mean exactly? Well, I would say the name is certainly fitting for what has been teased to be the narrative for the upcoming round-based map, since what keeps us separated from the Dark Ether seems to be shattering literally and will probably be explored quite a bit here in the next map. We know that the town of Liberty Falls is pretty special, and there's a reason why Josiah Shem built the mansion where he did. He performed the mass sacrifice, I think, downstairs, and Richtofen for sure built a lab here for a specific reason that is certainly tied to Project Janus. Now, it is very likely that the barrier between our real world and the Dark Ether will be fully shattered by the time we finish the main Easter egg in DLC 3, and SAM is probably going to be behind that. As I discussed in last night's Zombies Focus video, which I recommend giving a watch if you're more interested in Mr. Peaks and the greater connections between Black Ops 6 and some other Zombies games, but it looks like something called Tempest has been harvested in the mansion, which will allow Richtofen to activate the Sentinel artifact, and once that happens, who knows, will time travel finally become possible in this new rebooted timeline? Could that possibly bring back the multiverse? Lots of questions with what could actually happen once the veil is truly shattered inside of the upcoming Zombies map. But to go even deeper with this, we all know that the Forsaken was trapped at the end of Cold War Zombies, and for years, while our Requiem crew was locked over in Terminus, Requiem studied the Forsaken, and with his studies, developed SAM, AI that is based on Samantha Maxis, who also purposely was trapped in the Dark Ether so we can go through with Project Janus without worrying about any retaliation. So it looks like SAM now has a mind of their own and has thrown Richtofen into the Dark Ether. So it looks like our crew is certainly being played by SAM. That'll probably be discovered inside of DLC 3. But this most certainly will also connect to what we saw at the end of Modern Warfare Zombies, where Ava Jansen was brought through a mirror and taken to the mansion, probably in the past, because MW Zombies takes place in what, the mid-2020s? Decades and decades after Black Ops 6. So with time travel being involved, I'm almost certain that's probably going to prevent what we ended up seeing at the beginning of Modern Warfare 3, which is our Requiem crew dead around the table over in Urzikstan. I almost feel like Modern Warfare 3 Zombies is meant to show us an alternate timeline if our crew fails, whereas throughout the end of Black Ops 6 and probably BO7, we'll be seeing and experiencing a timeline where we don't fail, setting up a different chain of events entirely. But I've also seen several theories going around about this new image, because in the background of the new map logo, you can see an alternate look at the Shattered Veil, and you can very clearly see Maya in the background. It's kind of blurred out. It's going to be one of those standard blog images that just has our crew walking through the map, as we also saw for DLC 1 and 2 and about every Zombies map to date now. But considering that neither Amalgams nor Abominations are going to be present in this map, my fingers are crossed for new enemy types altogether, which as of now, it's been rumored that Hellhounds and something something called a Mecha Klaus will be present in a future round-based map. That map could be this one. With only seemingly 2 maps left to go, I think we'll probably see those new enemy types, or if they're enemy types, inside of DLC 3 or 4, possibly even both. But to everyone's surprise, just around a day and a half ago, Jason Blundell did an interview where he confirmed that he started a brand new game studio under PlayStation, and that is called Dark Outlaw Games. Nothing was shared about what game they're actually working on, but his official quote is as follows.
You're starting up something brand new.
Yeah. I've had the amazing opportunity to create a new studio within PlayStation Studios for Sony. The studio is called Dark Outlaw. And so Dark Outlaw Games have been working away in the shadows for a while, and when we've got something to talk about, we'll step out into the light. But the story for me is going to be about the game, not about the studio. So the reason why we're not doing a fanfare or shouting about it from the rooftops is like, let's get something, right? But Dark Outlaw Games.
That's exciting.
So this is interesting considering that he was a studio head over at Deviation Games, which was also under PlayStation for a couple of years when unfortunately that entire project fell apart, leading to the studio to fully close down. It's really unclear what game they were actually working on, or if this new game he's working on is anything similar. I'd assume not. But I'm sure it'll be several years before we hear anything about what Dark Outlaw Games is working on, probably an exclusive for the PlayStation 6 if I had to guess. But for the first time since Jason's departure from Treyarch, he actually shared some details on why he left, and his official quote was, "The machine was changing and I didn't think I'd be helpful in the next phase. It wasn't as exciting for me anymore." Now he also clarified later on in the interview that he felt like as he kept getting promoted, because at one point he was studio head of Treyarch, he became further and further away from the game itself and the core development, to where although he could still protect his team, which was always his goal as he got promoted, right, protecting the integrity of the workers behind him or the workers with him, he still felt like he no longer had a helping hand in the actual development of the core gameplay and probably the story, which I believe he was likely most passionate about. So that apparently led to his departure from the studio back in 2020. He also went on to say that once he walks into work and feels like he doesn't want to be there, he knows it's probably the end and it's time for some change. So it looks like he felt that way, midway through Black Ops 4, and I wish he would have at least stayed to finish the old Ether story, because maybe it would have helped with the budget as Ether came to an end, although maybe it wouldn't have. I could see that he likely didn't want to have a helping hand in turning Sledgehammer's former COD 2020 into what became Black Ops Cold War. I'm also guessing when he describes the next phase of Call of Duty that he's also talking about the Warzone era, because he obviously had a big helping hand with the development of Blackout, or at least offered some direction with it. So I'm sure when he heard that Call of Duty was shifting more towards a seasonal structure with more emphasis on Modern Warfare's free-to-play Warzone, he probably got checked out at that point and said, you know what, this is really far from why I was working at Treyarch to begin with, or is really far from what makes me happy as a developer with the projects that I'm actually working on. But amongst one of the biggest surprises in this interview that I think changes the conversation about zombies forever, as I'm going to go into even more in an upcoming podcast, is that the reason he believes Black Ops 3 Zombies thrived the way that it did is because the campaign of BO3 was screwed for quite some time. His official quote was, "Hey, you have a 200-man team. Thanks to the campaign crew not being busy, start making zombies maps while we try to work out what to make." And that shows, right? The Black Ops 3 campaign was certainly pretty problematic. I think it started off as an open world experience and later shifted to a more structured, traditional, linear campaign. And even though you can kind of do any mission out of order, you could tell the narrative was a mess. Didn't even seem like it was originally a Black Ops sequel. They kind of just shoehorned in a reference to Menendez and Nova 6 towards the end of the game. It truly felt like a standalone futuristic experience that got the Black Ops name slapped on it. But because of what happened with campaign, it looks like they just had so many more resources to cook in zombies, and that certainly shows with the atmosphere and the replayability and the Easter eggs available in Black Ops 3. So what does this mean going forward? Should they just scrap campaigns entirely and devote all resources to zombies? They probably wouldn't do that, but what it does show is if they hire more people or just have a bigger crew, but not to the point where they feel like there's too many cooks in the kitchen to where one vision can't be executed, but if you have a really well-rounded crew all with a like-minded goal for whatever that zombies mode is, you could truly see something special developed and crafted for what is hopefully a 3+ year development cycle, which is not even what they had back then. They were were working on much shorter time windows than that. When you look at how much Treyarch has been juggling the past couple of years, it honestly makes me concerned for the future, but hopefully that's behind everybody and we can go back to a more traditional routine where one dev works on one Call of Duty uninterrupted for 2-3 years and the cycle could continue. And I get it, there's people that also think the yearly cycle should come to an end, but that's a discussion for a different time. But I think Blundell also knows his strengths and weaknesses. Maybe as a studio head of a different studio, he can thrive in that position while having more creative control, whereas as a studio head under Call of Duty, maybe that's not where he can shine the best. I mean, Black Ops 4 had its campaign cut. You know, Black Ops 4 apparently had more devs working on it than what we saw with Black Ops 3. Maybe that was a case of too many cooks in the kitchen. And you can also tell with some bizarre gameplay decisions that Black Ops 4 Zombies made upon launch, fully changing the perk system, the points, the health cap. I mean, there were so many different changes made to where there was almost too much implemented day one, and then it kind of got burned out halfway through the cycle when it was very clear budgets were cut, no more cinematic cutscenes, chaos got put on hold. And on top of that, Black Ops 4 was planned as a multi-year experience, so I'm sure when Activision was like, hey, Mr. Blundell, we're actually not going to have multiple years of support for Black Ops 4 like you originally thought. You're going to get to work on turning Sledgehammer's COD 2020 into a Black Ops game, and it's also likely to be a soft reboot of sorts, and is much more simplified under the Warzone era than how ambitious Black Ops 4 was with the agenda that he originally had. Now, the last thing I'll end with is this specific clip regarding unsolved Easter eggs in Call of Duty Zombies.
Yeah, and you know, for a while there, you were the face of zombies. And you know, and it's funny, like going and looking, there are still people out there that are like, he said he was going to reveal this Easter egg. Like there was, has everything been found? Or is there still something out there? There's still stuff out there that you buried in some of the stuff that.
And Jeff, to be honest, if I have my way, I'll be dead and buried, and there'll still be stuff in there, and I'll be quite happy.
I know I didn't say much, but yeah, you can bet there's probably some secrets here and there that are left in some of the older Zombies maps. If they're ever revealed, though, remains to be seen. I do hear around the community that the impossible Easter egg has allegedly been solved, so I'll be sure to break that down in a future video, or even a podcast. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave our thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on the brand new information shared by Jason Blundell himself? How are you feeling about the new DLC 3 teasers for Black Ops 6? Leave our thoughts down below. Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.